What's up, guys? Lance coming to you from SRL, trying to get this situated. Okay, here we go. Looks like we're up and running finally. Welcome to SRL Season 8, Round 17, Singapore, the toughest race of the season according to Sandro Julius and probably many others, coming off of another ridiculous race last week, or a couple weeks ago, I should say, Round 16 at Azerbaijan, Baku. Coming off of a race of attrition where we started with 17 drivers, only 9 of them ended up finishing. Logan Aron walked away with his 10th and league-leading pole position of the season and his 8th and league-leading win of the season to extend his championship points lead. Friab Bile came home second last race with his 6th podium of the season. And Jesper Lempinen, long time since he's had a podium in SRL, but he walked away with one last week. Oleski would finish 4th. Cameron Weston Edwards walked away with a 5th place finish. Ivan Brito has had a resurgence here in the second part of this season, finishing 6th. Sandro Julius and Dion Stahl finishing 7th and 8th. Vincenzo Torri was your last car to finish the race in 9th. 10th through 17th was all DNFs. That was Louis Quinlan. Tim Ventic with a very huge crush to his championship, as he finishes 11th with his 2nd DNF of the season. Nicolo Falzaresi had his 2nd DNF of the season. Nick Van Gelder with his 4th DNF of the season and 3rd in a row. Senna Haywire had a 6th DNF of the season. Lewis Marshall, and his comeback has not gone the way he's wanted it to, with a DNF. And Luke Smith also had a DNF along with Christian Dorman, who now holds the record for the quickest DNF in SRL history. Lights went green, and he went out. Looking at the championship point standings, Logan Aron extends his points lead, 255 points to his credit. Second place, Tim Ventic took a huge blow last week, 195 to his credit, a 60-point gap as the season comes into its 3rd and final stint. It'll be interesting to see if Tim can close that gap. Oleski with that finish in 4th. And with Nicolo Falzaresi crashing out, secures himself in the 3rd spot with 177 points. Nicolo Falzaresi is from 4th in points with 158. Top 5, Friab Bile with 118 points. Sandro Julius would be 6th with 107. Vincenzo Torri, 103. And then you have Max Mulder, Jesper Lempinen, and Jensen Randall. Max Mulder, even though he's been banned, is still in the top 10 in points with 85. Jesper Lempinen, with that podium finish, was able to put himself into 9th in points, and Jensen Randall into 10th. Lots to talk about heading into today's race. New drivers, leaving drivers, penalties, and more. We're going to run down the driver lineup. We'll do an 18-minute short qualifying session followed by a 50% race. We've got Foons Van Houten on the live chat. Haven't seen him in a long time. Good to see he's on the live chat with us, along with Panther Wiz and Whippo Film. And yes, it is Foons from years ago, Foons Van Houten. It looks like we've got a relatively small field for today's race, but small on car count does not mean small on action as we head into Singapore, the longest race, the hottest race, and usually the wettest race of the season. So heading into today's race, the sign-ups for Season 9 are now open. And the first team to confirm their participation in next season is, of course, Sandro Julius and Dion Stahl, as they will both be teaming up at Ferrari once again, the longest tenured team in SRL history. Looks like we've got 14 drivers for today's race. And we do have a couple of newcomers. We have Harley Collins is going to be in the McLaren, it looks like, for today. Looks like Jensen Randall will be participating. Dion Stahl, Oleski, Tim Ventic, Ivan Brito, Vincenzo Torri, Cameron Weston Edwards, Jesper Lempinen, Sandro Julius, Luke Smith, Friab Bile, Logan Aron, and Nicolo Falzaresi. And doesn't look like anybody's yet left the pits. So Sandro Julius and Dion Stahl signing up for Season 9 already. Will be in the Ferraris once again. And let's get some lap. And here we see Harley Collins coming out of the pits, making his SRL debut here in the McLaren. Don't think he's going to be full-time at McLaren just yet. as Robin Herterstegen and Cameron Weston Edwards. But again, Season 9 signups are now open. You can check us out on the web. You can also check us out on Instagram for signups. And it looks like we've also got not Luke Smith, we've got Logan Aron. Logan is usually the first car out on track. So currently people coming out, doing their out laps. We've got Nick Van Gelder, Foon Sven Hout, Max Mulder all on the live chat. Good to see everybody chiming in. As this 18-minute short qualifying session is just now getting underway. No time set as of yet. We're currently watching championship points leader Logan Aron, a 60-point gap. Now, mathematically, Tim Ventic and Oleski and Nicolo Falzarezzi are all still in contention for the championship, but Logan Aron would have to run into a string of bad luck for anybody to try and close a 60-point gap. We've seen it done in Formula One. Sebastian Vettel did it a couple times, 2010, 2012, where he came back from 31 and 38-point gaps in the championship, beating out Fernando Alonso both times, unfortunately for Fernando. We're going to hop on board with Logan Aron as he begins his first hot lap of the session. $14 cars for today's race. We started with 17 cars last week at the streets of Baku and only ended up with 9. Could be another race of attrition today here on the streets of Singapore. Again, Singapore, the hottest, the longest, sometimes the wettest. Absolutely the toughest race. We've already got a yellow flag in Sector 1. Looks like there's a car off pace down in that area. That could potentially be Jesper Lempinen. And Nick Van Gelder saying he's not going to be making the race today because Nick, who loves to do speeches on punctuation and time and being punctual, is going to be late, not make the race because he didn't check his calendar. I just like giving Nick a hard time about that. Coming to the end of this lap here, Logan Aron's got a little bit of traffic in front of him. Shouldn't play too much of an issue heading into the final corner. He's going to come across the line. Lets off the gas. And 137.192 is the first time set. We'll pick up Harley Collins as he's getting ready to come across the line in the McLaren. Harley Collins, whoa! And he backs the car into the wall, but goes 136.936. I'm sorry, 143.407. That was Nicolo Falzarezzi that set the time, 136.936. Harley Collins crashed into the wall, 143.407. Cameron Weston Edwards, 139.985. Harley is still all over the track. Vincenzo Torri, 137.830. And Harley is still stalled in the middle of the track. We pick up Dion Stahl, but his time is going to be hurt from Harley Collins. We'll pick up Oleski. You see another car going around there. Whoa, and Dion Stahl almost loses the back end. Looks like he's trying to set a banker lap on some hard tires. And Jesper Lempinen's gone fourth quickest with a 138.226 as we ride on board with Dion Stahl. He's going to come across the line sixth quickest, 142.773. And Jensen Randall has retired from the session. Don't know if that was by design or not. We pick up Tim Ventic. He's getting ready to come across the line with a 139.293. Good enough for fifth quickest so far. And we're going to pick up Oleski, currently in Sector 2. Whoa, and he's got another McLaren. Is that Harley Collins again? And Harley has lost his front wing, and he's become a moving roadblock here early on in this qualifying session. And Nick needs to get his names right. It's Harley Collins, not Colin Higgins. Colin Higgins, former racer here at SRL. Hasn't raced with us in a number of years, though. Harley Collins, newcomer, making his SRL debut today here in the McLaren in Singapore. And in 2 weeks' time, we've got another driver that'll be making his debut at Mexico. That'll be Simone Maury will be making his debut as we watch Oleski go 1:37.788. Good enough for fourth quickest. And we'll pick up Friab Bile, who has set a time of 1:37.370. Good enough for third quickest so far. Friab Bile, unfortunately, making his final race of the season. He came in and started a very impressive run with SRL at round 9 in Canada. He has never finished outside of the top 5. He's got 6 podium finishes to his credit, 2 pole positions, currently 5th in points. Unfortunately, Friab Bile has a new job in the rear world and will not be able to participate in the coming weeks on Saturdays at this time, so certainly going to miss Friab Bile on the track. He's been a championship contender. It makes you wonder how competitive he would have been had he been able to make his debut at round 1 heading into this season. So we currently watch Sandro Dulius. 7th quickest so far, 1:38.562 for Sandro. Looks like he's a little bit off the pace. He'll be heading into the pits as well. So Harley Collins has retired from this session. We do not have Jensen Randall or Luke Smith. They're both going to be starting from the rear of the field. Ivan Brito's yet to leave the pits. The only car on track right now is Oleski. And it looks like he's going to be heading into the pits. Now, Nicolo Falzaresi is on an out lap. Currently your provisional pole sitter. 9 minutes left to play in the session. 1:36.936 is the time to beat, set by Falzaresi. Falzaresi backing up the car. Looks like he's going to get going, give himself some space to run. And we do have Ivan Brito now currently on an out lap, has yet to set a time. And here we go, Nicolo Falzaresi starting another hot lap. He comes across the line to start it, heads down into turn 1. Definitely exploring the limitations of the track limits here in the first couple of corners, down through the front straightaway and into 1 and 2. Runs it a little wide coming out of there, through the Fanatec straightaway here. Hard braking left-hander coming up. Runs it over the curb on the exit. Ooh, and again runs it a little wide, just brushes the wall there. Looks like he might be fighting a little bit of understeer in some of these corners here, especially the low-speed ones. Down the back straightaway into the right-hander. I will say this for these drivers. I don't play this game very often. Big wiggle there by Falzaresi, but this is very impressive to see how these guys have to navigate this course. Some of these walls and signage just run together. I couldn't even make out where the track is half the time. Coming through the final corner, power down. Falzaresi trying to improve his time in a 1:36.383. He goes a half a second quicker. And he is now 8/10 up on Logan Aron, your closest competitor. We'll pick up Friab Bile. Friab Bile's up on his previous time at Sector 2. We talked about Friab being his last race, unfortunately, for SRL. For the time being, he will always be welcome back. But honestly, one of the most impressive drivers we've had in SRL in a while. Still looking for that illustrious first win, but I do believe it may escape him, unfortunately, here at SRL. Nonetheless, never finished outside the top 5 in all of the races that he participated in. Coming through the last corner now. And he goes 1:36.767. That is good enough for second place. That drops Logan Aron down to third. Meanwhile, we're going to pick up Tim Ventic, second in the championship point standings. He has struggled mightily the last few weeks, had a huge crash last week. It was a big blow to his championship. And Nick's still justifying the reason why he's not racing. Which life happens, we can appreciate that. But if you do find the time, Nick, you're always welcome back into the booth once again. This time it won't be because of a DNF. Tim Ventic getting ready to come across the line, cuts that corner a little tight. And he does improve his time by 1.3 seconds, but it's only good enough for 6th and then 7th quickest. Very quickly drops to 7. And now Oleski has gone 3rd quickest. Jesper Lempinen has gone 6th quickest. Now we're going to pick up Ivan Brito. Ivan Brito is yet to set a time. There's 4 minutes left to play in this session. And, oh, he just brushed the wall as we pick him up there in the Aston Martin. Ivan has had quite an up and down season so far. He had a string of DNFs at the beginning part of this season. Really made a resurgence the last few rounds and put on some great racing, especially at Spa. He's been able to put some points on the board for Aston Martin and find his old form. Looks like he might be struggling a little bit today. Looks like he's already invalidated his lap time, but he's coming towards the end of this lap. Actually, I should say it's an out lap, so it doesn't matter. It's not invalidated. So Ivan Brito going to be starting his timed lap here on the soft tires. Let's see what he can do as he heads down the front straightaway. 3:30 left to go, and currently Nicolo Falzarezzi is your provisional pole sitter. Ivan struggling to get through turn 1 there just a little bit. Down through the Fanatec back straightaway. That's what I'm going to call it because of the signage. Looks like Ivan is really tiptoeing around this track, trying to find the grip. Might be struggling with the car a little bit. He has struggled at times this season with the handling aspects, the handling characteristics, the handling model of the game. Floor damage has been a new thing introduced this year to the best of my knowledge, and that has actually called out a lot of drivers when there's floor damage on the vehicle, and Ivan Brito has had to succumb to that a couple of times. But when Ivan Brito is on, he puts up some great racing. And we've got Nicolo Falzarezzi, Friab Bile, both on out laps. So it looks like they're going to make their final plea for a better time. Logan Aron, currently 4th quickest, still sitting in the pits. And here comes Ivan Brito. Oh, and he was so close. And now he is stuck in the middle of the track, gets it squared up again. He was just coming to the end of that lap and wanted to try and squeeze every little bit out of it that he could. Unfortunately, backs it into the wall. Looks like one of the McLarens just went by. That would be Cameron Wesson Edwards. So Ivan Brito does set a time of 1:53.409, but obviously he had that incident. So we're going to pick up Nicolo Falzaresi trying to get around Ivan Brito, and Jesper Lempinen is retired from this session. Don't know if he had an off or if he's just done for the day, but his time is going to be locked in, 1:37.669. Good enough for 6th quickest so far as we ride along with Falzaresi. And it looks like Falzaresi is up by 0.08 of a second over his previous time at the end of Sector 1. So he's on the cusp of improving his time by just a tenth. Caution flag flies Sector 2. That's Cameron Weston Edwards around in the McLaren as Falzaresi goes whizzing by. Caution flags flying Sectors 2 and 3. Cameron Weston Edwards retires from the session. His time's locked in, 1:39.220. Oleski's locked in at a 1:36.891. His time's getting ready to run out on this qualifying session. Hot laps will count. Falzaresi comes through the last corner, and he is going to go 1:36 flat to improve his time. Friad Bile, we're going to hop on board with him, and a new time set by Falzaresi, 1:36.059. Provisional pole for him. We ride along with Friad Bile. We're also going to pick up Logan Arond. Logan's got a little bit of traffic in front of him. Friad Bile underneath the bridge. Sector 3, the last couple of corners here for Friad Bile. On his final race for SRL, can he snatch a pole position? Throttles down, and he's going to be just off of it. He improves his time, but not his position. Currently locked in at second place, 1:36.706. We hop back on board with Logan Arond. Currently 4th quickest. He's 0.3 off of Oleski's time of a 1:36.891. He's up 0.8 at the end of the second sector over his previous time, so Logan giving it everything he's got heading into these last few corners, but he's invalidated his lap time. It's not going to do him any good. Logan Arond is going to be done for this qualifying session. We pick up Sandro Julius, currently 7th quickest. His time's been invalidated. Tim Ventic, his time is invalidated. Dion Stahl, he's the only other driver on track that can improve his time, but he's not going to, 1:39.573. And that is going to do it for this qualifying session. Nicolo Falzaresi with a huge pole position, 1:36 flat. Unbelievable time set by Nicolo Falzaresi for what is his 3rd pole position of the season. And your championship points leader, Logan Arond, will be starting in the 4th position. His closest championship contender, Tim Ventic, will be starting in 8th. And not only is that his closest contender, that's also his teammate. However, there is no love lost between Tim Ventic and Logan Arond. The championship battle has been quite extensive throughout the course of this year. And that is an impressive time set by Nicolo Falzaresi. Falzaresi starting in the pole position, followed by Friad Bile, Oleski, Logan Arond, Vincenzo Torri with a time of 5th, 1:37.401. Jesper Lempinen will be starting in 6th position. Sandro Julius is 7th. Tim Ventic 8th. Cameron Weston Edwards 9th. Dion Stahl is 10th. Harley Collins on his debut could only muster the 1:43.406 for 11th. Ivan Brito, we saw him spin on his hot lap, 1:53.407 for 12th. Jensen Randall and Luke Smith both starting at the rear of the field, 13th and 14th. So we just got done doing our 18-minute short qualifying session. We'll back that up with a 50% race here at Singapore. And the question will be, how hot will the track get? Tire degradation will be a factor depending on the heat. And obviously, weather is always a factor here at Singapore because of the humidity and an onslaught of rain could happen at any moment. So it'll be interesting to see how this one shakes out. And with tire degradation being a key factor, it'll be interesting to see if any of these guys run the softs for any type of extended period. As we wait for the game to reset. We've also got English Film on the live chat. He says hello, long in between Nick's conversation. So here we go. We'll do the formation lap here around the track here. The streets of Singapore. Nicolo Falzarezzi with his third pole position of the season. He'll be starting in the top spot, followed by Friabile, who has never finished outside of the top 5. He's going to be looking to go out on a high in his final SRL race until further notice. Oleski is going to be starting in the third position. He's also third in the point standings, 177 to his credit. He's less than 20 points behind Tim Ventic. Logan Aron, your championship points leader, 255 points to his credit. He's got a 60-point lead over Tim Ventic. He's starting in the fourth position. Vincenzo Torri, we didn't talk about a whole lot during qualifying, but a great effort, starting in the fifth position. And he'll be backed up by Jesper Lempinen, who's coming off of a podium finish, a much-needed podium finish at the streets of Baku. See if he can do it again here on the streets of Singapore. Sandro Dulius, who's already signed up for Season 9 with Ferrari, along with Dion Stahl, the longest-tenured teammates in SRL history. He'll be starting in the seventh position. He'll be looking to try and work his way through the field, get some points on the board, hopefully move himself up into the top 5 in points. With Friabile exiting at the end of this race, unfortunately, it'll give Sandro a good opportunity to jump into that top 5 in points. Tim Ventic will be starting in 8th, again second in the championship point standings. He'll be looking to move his way through the field, put some points on the board, and hope for some bad luck for his teammate, Logan Aron. Cameron Wesson Edwards. Cameron finished 5th last week at Baku. He's going to be starting 9th today, see if he can work his way through the field. And Dion Stahl, again, we've talked about him and Sandro. Going to be racing for Ferrari again next season. Be starting in the 10th position. Harley Collins making his SRL debut in the McLaren. That is not going to be his permanent team. He's filling in for Robin Herterstegen for today. Be starting in the 11th position. And Ivan Brito struggled in qualifying. Only mustered a 153. He was the slowest of the cars that did set a time. He'll be starting in 12th. And then 13th and 14th is going to be Jensen Randall and Luke Smith, both reserve drivers. It should be noted, Jensen Randall, even though he is a reserve driver, is still top 10 in points with 56 points to his credit. And Luke Smith will be starting in the rear of the field for Team Red Bull, filling in for Nick Van Gelder, who is with us on the live chat. So we'll wait for the game to reset. Lights out, time to run what you brung. They're away in a puff of smoke, and it's a good start for Friabile and Nicola Falzarezzi. But here comes Oleski on the outside. And the camera's not catching anything. We've got, 5, 6, 7 cars around. Jesper Lempinen's out of the session. And already we've got a full course caution as we head into turn 1. Jesper Lempinen now holds the record. No, he doesn't hold the record. Christian Dorman still holds the record for the quickest DNF in history, but that's too bad for Jesper Lempinen, coming off of a podium finish last week. Oleski able to get out in front. Looks like Logan Aron was involved in that. He's got some wing damage, it looks like, as he's fallen down to 11th. You see Dion Stahl, and look at this, Nicolo Falzarezzi, your pole sitter, all the way down into 13th. What has happened to Nicolo? My, how the mighty have fallen. Oleski with a great start. Now Friabile looks like he was involved as well. He's dropped to 8th. And the camera did not want to cooperate with me on the start of that, but it looked like Falzaresi had a halfway decent start, maybe got a little bit of wheel spin, and then they were 3 wide heading into turn 1. Oleski on the outside. And then all hell broke loose heading into turn 1. 5, 6, 7 cars around. Jesper Lempinen is out of the session, but Oleski up into first. Vincenzo Torri up into second. Cameron Wesson Edwards, who started 9th, is now 3rd, and Sandro Dulius is up to 4th. Tim Ventic now. And it looks like we're back to green flag racing. I was unaware. I thought we were going to go full course caution. And Friat Bile looks like he's... I don't think anybody was ready for that green flag. I didn't know that was a virtual safety car. Friat Bile looks like he's lost his front wing. So Friab is going to be all the way at the back of this field. And I think everybody might have gotten called out on that green flag restart. I thought for sure we were having a full course safety car. And it looks like we've got a lot of guys into the pits. Tim Ventic, Ivan Brito, Harley Collins, Logan Aron, Friat Bile all into the pits. Nicolo Falzaresi moves his way back up into the 8th position. Cameron Wesson Edwards in hot pursuit of Vincenzo Torri, but he has got Sandro Dulius all over the back of him, and Sandro is bringing Jensen Randall with him, and we've now got a 3-4 car battle for the 4th position. Sandro's got Jensen Randall behind him. Behind him is Luke Smith, and Jensen Randall to the inside of Sandro, tries to get the power down. Sandro with the more preferred line is going to give him a little bit of room, and now it's 3 wide as they come out of that corner. Oh, and Luke Smith's going to barge his way through and push Sandro wide. Luke did have a good run coming out of that corner, and Sandro looks like he's going to suffer from it down into 6th. So a crazy start to the beginning of this race. And now Jensen Randall and Luke Smith started rear of the field, 13th and 14th. Closing in on Cameron Wesson Edwards. And Jensen now is all over the gearbox of Cameron Wesson Edwards. Might be able to get an opportunity to get him going down into turn 1. Currently no DRS available. We're only on lap 2. We had the virtual safety car because of Jesper Lempenen's crash. Oleski sets the fastest lap of this race at a 1:42. Here comes Jensen Randall, tucks into the slipstream, pulls back out, is going to get to the inside, and looks like there was a little bit of a glitch there. But Cameron Wesson Edwards is going to lose the position out to Jensen Randall. Drops into 4th. Luke Smith will now set his sights on Cameron Wesson Edwards in the McLaren. Luke Smith on the medium tires. And DRS is now available. You see the slot open on Cameron Wesson Edwards' McLaren. And Oleski is off to the races. 3.5 second lead over Vincenzo Torri. Nicolo Falzaresi was your pole sitter. Currently back in 8th. We've got some shuffling going on in the back. Looks like Harley Collins has had an issue. He's lost a couple of positions to Ivan Brito and Logan Aron. Friat Bile has worked his way back into the points. He's 10th now after his losing his front wing as we ride along with Luke Smith. Logan Aron, your championship points leader, getting ready to make a move on Ivan Brito for the 11th position. Meanwhile, Tim Ventic is only up to 9th. And while Cameron has been holding off Luke Smith, Jensen Randall has closed in on Vincenzo Torri for the 2nd spot. Jensen Randall, former series champion, a.k.a. Jensen Hamilton in the Mercedes, holds all kinds of records. Harley Collins is retired from the session. Not sure if he had a DNF. Looks like, yep, caution flag flies. Sector 1, 2, and 3, full course caution. Harley Collins on his SRL debut, done for the day. Not how he wanted this weekend to go. And if you're going to be making a debut, Singapore is one of the hardest tracks to do it at. So Harley Collins, a rough go for him. Spun during qualifying, didn't have the best qualifying time. He's now crashed out here on lap 3. And it looks like we do have trying to see the signage, it looks like we might have an actual full course caution safety car as opposed to the virtual safety car. So this is much like last week. The streets of Baku was full of attrition. We started with 17 cars last week, ended up with 9. Today we're starting with 14. We've already lost 2 in the first couple of laps. And that's too bad for Oleski, who had a 5-second lead before this crash by Harley Collins. So currently circulating under the safety car. Any gamblers on pit stops? We saw a number of drivers make pit stops at the first virtual safety car. See who's going to come in. Could be a whole slew of them. Now Oleski is staying out. Vincenzo Torri looks like he tried to bait Jensen Randall into going in there. Cameron Weston-Edwards, Luke Smith, they both stay out. Sandro Dulius is going to stay out. Dion Stahl. And Dion's going to use it for a free pit stop. He's going to dive into the pits. And then we have Nicolo Falzaresi. Looks like he is circulating very slow under the safety car. So this might be a benefit for Dion. If he can get in and out and not lose a position, he switches over to the hard tires. Here comes Falzaresi. Now, again, this is not under speed. All right, it looks like Dion Stahl is going to lose out on that position. Tim Ventic is not going to dive into the pits. Friat Bile, who already pitted for a new wing and a fresh set of mediums, he'll stay out. Logan Arand. And Logan is going to stay out as well, along with Ivan Brito. And there is the Mercedes safety car. So already an up and down race for some of these drivers. Nicolo Falzaresi, your pole sitter, had an incident on the opening lap. He fell back to the back of the field. He's managed to work his way back into 7th. Oleski able to get the jump on him heading into turn 1. They were 3 wide heading into turn 1. It was Oleski, Nicolo Falzaresi, and Friat Bile. Caused a little bit of a pileup heading into turn 1. Might get looked at the end of this race. Jesper Limpinen crashed out. There were about 7 cars involved in that incident. Our latest safety car is because of Harley Collins making his SRL debut. Unfortunately, did not turn out the way he wanted it to. But Oleski leading this race, currently 3rd in points. He's 177 points to his credit, 18 points behind Tim Ventic with 195. The last time Oleski won was actually back at Monza. So that was round 14. And that's actually Oleski's only win so far this season, but he does have 6 podiums to his credit. That's been able to keep him in championship contention. Oleski started out the season very strong, and then he went through a bit of a dry spell in the middle of the season. A little bit of a resurgence here as we head into the 3rd part of this season. He had a great run at Baku last week where he did finish 4th. Lost out the podium to his teammate Jesper Limpinen. Jesper, unfortunately, out of this race. And Luke Dragon on the live chat saying that the safety car is a good opportunity for Falzaresi to make a comeback in this race, and I absolutely agree. Clearly the fastest car on track during qualifying by a lot. I think the problem he's going to run into is obviously going to be traffic. He has worked his way back into the 7th position. And he's got a lot of fast drivers in front of him. Now, Falzaresi would have to go through Luke Smith and Jensen Randall, currently 5th and 3rd. I don't think Vincenzo Torri would put up too much of a fight for his teammate, as Falzaresi is still mathematically in contention for the championship. So Vincenzo, I think, would probably move aside for Nicolo and let him go by. And then you have to contend with Oleski. Tim Ventic and Logan Arand, meanwhile, Team Haas, 9th and 11th, respectively, along with Friat Bile. We talked a lot about Friat in qualifying. So 3 fast drivers, 9th, 10th, and 11th, that struggling to get and stay in the points right now. And the safety car should be in this lap. We should get that notification here as they head down this short chute. And there it is, safety car in this lap. That will make Oleski the control car once the safety car gets going. Now the question becomes, where does Oleski pick his spot to go full bore? The safety car is technically still on track, hasn't been able to create the gap I think Oleski was looking for. So Oleski's actually going to be the control car, much closer to the start-finish line than I thought. Now these guys also have to remember there's no passing before the start-finish line, even on the restarts. So Oleski back under power, and away we go. And Jensen Randall already trying to make a move on Vincenzo Torri, gets around him. As they head into turn one, Jensen Randall up into second. Vincenzo Torri down on third. Cameron Weston Edwards is fourth, bringing along Luke Smith, followed by Sandro Julius, Nicolo Falzarezzi, Dion Stahl, and it looks like Friab Bile trying to make a move on him. And Friab to the inside of Dion, and he's going to make that work. That's for the 9th position, and here comes Logan Aron behind him. I'm sorry, that's Logan Aron. He's going to pick up the 10th position. Tim Bentic has moved his way up into 8th. And now Tim Bentic, we see this battle unfolding. Nicolo Falzarezzi with Tim Bentic all over the back of him. These are technically championship contenders right here. And Tim Bentic with a great run coming out of the corner. It looks like we might have a little bit of sprinkles in the sky. Rain starting to fall here at Singapore, and there you see it on the onboard. It's just starting to come down. And a great run there. Tim Bentic going to try and get to the inside of Falzarezzi. They're side by side as they come out of there, and here's Friab Bile. And it's a drag race down the straightaway. Friab Bile is going to try and make it 3 wide. He thought about it. He thought about it hard, and they're still side by side. They're going to run themselves into the wall. Very close there by Tim Bentic and Nicolo Falzarezzi. This is a 4-car battle now. Friab Bile on the outside of Tim Bentic. And Falzarezzi has to cut the corner. Oh, and they make contact. Meanwhile, Logan Aron is watching all of this unfold in front of him. Doesn't want to be a victim, but also wants to capitalize on any mistakes that they make. Tim Bentic starting to pull away now in the 7th position. Meanwhile, Jensen Randall, we didn't catch it, but Jensen Randall made his way around Oleski for the top spot, and we've got cars diving into the pits. Does anybody stay out? Looks like that's Logan Aron. Logan Aron is going to gamble and stay out under the wet conditions on the slicks. If Logan pulls this off, it will be an amazing, amazing turn of events. Everybody has pitted. He's pulling the Lewis Hamilton at Hungary. He's going to stay out while everybody dives in. Let's see how much he's struggling just on turn in, but he's able to get the car going. Huge gamble for Logan Aron to try and make this work, not only from a logistics standpoint, trying to make the car work in wet conditions, but he's also going to lose a huge chunk of time, potentially, if he's not able to get these tires to work. High risk, high reward. He's either going to bin it, he's going to lose a huge chunk of positions, or he's going to come out on top. 16-second gap. Now, if Logan's thinking big picture, then he should be able to come out in front of his championship rival, Tim Bentic. If he's thinking go for broke, then he's going to want to try and extend that 16-second gap and not lose as many positions as possible. He's now underneath the bridge section as he heads towards Sector 3. Last few corners. Oh, he almost loses the back end there. And he's now tiptoeing his way through the wet conditions. He lost about a second on that last sector. He's going to dive into the pits. You got to hand it to Logan. Great car control as he dives into the pits. So here comes Jensen Randall. Jensen's going to be on the intermediates. This should be an easy takeover. The question is going to be, how many positions does Logan lose in this exchange? Jensen Randall will become your leader, followed by Luke Smith. Logan is back up and running. Here comes Cameron Weston Edwards. Oh, and he's not going to be able to get out in front of Tim Ventic. The gamble didn't pay off like he thought it would, and he's now come out in the 9th position. And unfortunately, Nicolo Falzarezzi, through that exchange as well, has fallen down to the 11th spot. He's now battling it out with Ivan Brito for the 10th position. Meanwhile, Logan Aran and Friab Bile fighting for the 8th spot. And it looks like Falzarezzi has made his way around Ivan Brito to put himself into the points. Brito's not done with him, though. Brito trying to take that position back. Doesn't look like Brito's going to be able to make that work. And now Logan Aran and Friab Bile. We've got a whole stack of cars here. This is leading all the way back up to Tim Ventic. And actually, yeah, Tim Ventic up to Cameron Weston Edwards. So we've got 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. You could throw a blanket over them. Cameron Weston Edwards running in 5th. He's got Tim Ventic behind him. Behind that is going to be Sandro Dulius in the 7th position. He's bringing Friab Bile with him. And all over the back of Friab Bile is Logan Aran. And Nicolo Falzarezzi is not a part of this battle just yet. Oh, and a big wiggle by Falzarezzi there in the background as he comes out of that corner. They head underneath the bridge. And caution flag flies. Sector 3. Who was that for? Was that for... Might have been for Ivan Brito. And Logan trying to make a run coming out of that final corner. Friab Bile is going to try and take a little bit more of a defensive line. Meanwhile, Tim Ventic almost able to make the pass here on Cameron Weston Edwards as they head down the Fanatec straightaway. Cameron with a great defensive line there heading into this corner. Oh, and Tim Ventic, oh, he almost gives him the chrome horn, and now they're side by side. Tim's going to push him wide. And Cameron's certainly not going to appreciate that. Oh, and Cameron, Tim Ventic gets spun. Maybe a little bit of retaliation there. I'm not saying it was on purpose, but that was a textbook NASCAR bump and run. Tim Ventic down into the 11th position. So that puts Logan Aran into the 6th position. And here you see this 5-car battle, and caution flag flies sector 1, 2, and 3. We got a virtual safety car. Is this for Dion Stahl? No, looks like we've got somebody's around. What is going on here? Oh, yes, and it looks like Dion has had an incident, bend it into the wall, loses his front wing, virtual safety car. We'll go back to the 5th position here. This is Cameron Weston Edwards. I kind of thought something might happen. Tim Ventic pushed him aside, and Cameron is one to push back. And Tim Ventic is going to dive into the pits. Free pit stop for Tim. Get a fresh set of intermediates. Working lap 11 of 31. It has been a quite an adventurous race so far. Unfortunately, we haven't seen a whole lot of the battle up front. That's my fault. But Oleski, who was leading this race pre-safety car and pre-wet conditions. He is now down into the third position. Jensen Randall and Luke Smith, who started 13th and 14th respectively, are both out in front, first and second place. Jensen Randall, a.k.a. Jensen Hamilton, pretty much the league leader in every major category in SRL history, from pole positions to podiums to wins to points to championships and so on. Currently a reserve driver, still rocking the Mercedes livery. As we circulate under this full course caution, safety car came back out because of Deon Stahl's incident. So we've had a virtual safety car at the beginning of this race. We are now under our second safety car here in the wet conditions. Now the question becomes, how bad does the weather get? Does anybody switch to full wets? And it looks like Deon Stahl did come in, get a new set of tires, and he's going to be on the full wets along with a fresh front wing. We'll see if that makes any gains for him, as he's going to be running in the 12th position once we go back to green flag racing. So Jensen Randall is the leader of this race. The last time we saw Jensen get a win or a podium, it was quite some time ago. He had a pole position back at Monaco, but unfortunately wasn't able to capitalize on that. He did win at round 9 in Canada, which also coincidentally was Free Abile's SRL debut. Luke Smith also going to be in the second position. Haven't seen him on a podium for quite some time as well. And Oleski coming off of a 4th place finish last week. 3rd in the championship point standings, going to be starting in the 3rd position once we go back to green. Vincenzo Torri, who started 5th this race, has fought well to try and keep himself in that position. And then Logan Arand, who had a little bit of help from Cameron Weston Edwards, as Edwards dumped Tim Ventic. Ventic all the way back in the 11th position. Now, and it looks like we've got a car around. That's Nicolo Falzarezzi's gone around under the safety car. He lost the back end, and he bends it into the wall, loses his front wing. So your pole sitter, Falzarezzi, now has had an incident under the safety car. That will extend the safety car period. And the conditions are getting so bad now, I think it might be time for some of these drivers to switch over to full wets. You can see how hard it's raining here at Singapore. The intermediates are not going to get the job done, unfortunately. As we head back towards the front, let's see where the safety car is. And this is the final couple of corners here. Let's see if any drivers dive into the pits to pick up full wets. And it looks like Oleski is going to take the gamble. He's going to dive in. Who's going with him? Looks like Vincenzo Torri, Logan Arand, Sandro Dulius, Free Abile, Ivan Brito, Nicolo Falzarezzi, all diving into the pits. Meanwhile, Tim Ventic and Deon Stahl have already made their pit stops to switch over to full wet. So this is going to bump Tim back up. And Tim is now going to be in front of Logan Arand. So the championship swings again in favor of Tim Ventic, at least for this race, trying to close that 60-point gap that he has to Logan Arand. Meanwhile, Cameron Weston Edwards in the 3rd position. Harley Collins officially leaves the session after he's been out of this race for quite some time, crashed out on lap 2. So Tim Ventic has had a yo-yo type of day. He's been up and down and all around. Now finds himself in the 4th position. And interestingly enough, you see Tim Ventic is now behind Cameron Weston Edwards again. So, to recap what has happened there, Tim battling it out with Cameron Weston Edwards, gave him a little bit of a shoulder check. Might have been a move to get him out of the way. Might have been hard racing. A corner later in the wet conditions, you know, Cameron Weston Edwards might have misjudged his braking point and dumped Tim Ventic. Tim Ventic falls to 11th position. Safety car comes out, dives into the pits to grab a new set of tires. So Tim and Cameron, will there be any more argy-bargy between these two drivers? And you see just how much Cameron is struggling as he lost the back end there a couple of corners ago. Safety car is going to be in this lap. And this has been an exhausting race already, working lap 13 of 31. The tensions are high here in Singapore, along with the temperatures, the humidity, rain coming down. I know a lot of people had high hopes for Nicolo Falzarezzi heading into this race. And we're back under green flag conditions here. And a great start by Luke Smith as he's trying to get to the inside of Jensen Randall. He's not going to be close enough to make a move. Almost loses the back end. You see how squirrely it is, and these guys are still on the intermediates. Meanwhile, Cameron Weston Edwards, he's on the wet tires. He's going to try and get to the outside of Luke Smith for the 2nd position. And he is going to take that spot. And it looks like Tim Ventic is losing a position out to Luke Smith is losing another spot, and it looks like Oleski was the one that made the position up on that. And Cameron Weston Edwards to the front on the full wets, and here comes Oleski with him. Oleski is up in the 2nd position. Tim Ventic still in 4th. Jensen Randall and Luke Smith, who stayed out on the intermediate tires, are now paying the price. They've lost positions. Luke Smith is down into 6th position. Jensen Randall just dropped to 4th. And that puts championship contenders Tim Ventic and Logan Aron 3rd and 4th. Meanwhile, Oleski tiptoeing his way behind Cameron Weston Edwards, trying to see if he can get back to the lead of this race. And how long can they race in these conditions? How long will these wet tires last? And you can just hear how long these guys are off the throttle. You can see the understeer heading into these corners. The car just does not want to bite on the front end. Meanwhile, Tim Ventic still trying to hold off Logan Aron. That's a championship points battle right there. But we're riding along with Oleski and Cameron Weston Edwards. The battle for the lead of this race. Oh, and Oleski is all over the gearbox of Cameron Weston Edwards. You see the rain light is flashing. The conditions right now are abysmal, and this has now become a 4-car battle for the lead of this race. And these are 4 really good drivers right here. Cameron Weston Edwards, one of the hardest guys to pass in SRL. You've got Oleski, who's got a bunch of wins under his belt, a lot of podiums, he's championship contention. And then you've got Tim Ventic, former series champion, riding along with Logan Aron, who's currently the championship points leader. That's a 4-car battle for the lead of this race. And everybody just wants to come out in one piece. Meanwhile, Vincenzo Torri, who started 5th, has now managed to work his way back into 5th after losing that spot at the restart. And Free Abile has worked his way back in the 6th. Nicola Falzarezzi, your pole sitter, down in the 7th position and has a 3-second time penalty. He's the only driver to have a time penalty so far. Meanwhile, Oleski's still trying to... Oh, and Cameron almost loses the back end, trying to get that power down. Now, if I know Cameron's going to be at a little bit of a disadvantage because Cameron likes a loose race car. He generally runs a lot less downforce than most of the other cars, and while that helps him on the straightaways, probably not the best setup for a street course like Singapore, and definitely not the best setup for wet conditions. Oleski's a little bit more of a neutral, balanced guy. Capitalizes on other people's mistakes generally, rather than outright pace. And that seems to be what Oleski's trying to do here, is force Cameron into a mistake. Meanwhile, Tim Ventic, the former series champion, still riding along in 3rd. And he's got Logan Aron behind him. Now, Logan does not like to lose out to anybody. He is a wheel man through and through. He wants to race you. He's going to race you just as hard for first as he is for last, and that is what Logan is doing right now, trying to find a way around Tim Ventic. And you see now this has become a 5-car battle as Vincenzo Torri has caught this, and Oleski almost trying to get that power down and get by Cameron Weston Edwards. Edwards able to gap him just by a couple of car lengths. And Cameron's got a lot going for him. 1, Cameron is really hard to pass to begin with on a good day. 2, it's Singapore. There's not much of a lane other than the racing line to begin with. 3, it's raining, so you're definitely going to be down to single file for most of this track. But can Cameron hold them off for another whole half of this race as we just reached the 50% mark, lap 16 of 31, race halfway done, and it looks like the rain is still coming down, but it might be lightening up just a little bit. Could there be another switchover from the full wets to the intermediates, or possibly even back to slicks? And it looks like Ivan Brito has left the session. He's currently running in the 10th position. He's not DNF'd. He might have had an internet issue, possibly some desync or disconnect, but that's too bad for Ivan, currently running in 10th position. That means Jensen Randall and Luke Smith should be able to get a bump in position over those two, or over that spot. And the rain is starting to lighten up, it looks like. Oh, and here comes Logan Aron, gets to the inside of Tim Ventic. That's for the 3rd position. And it looks like Oleski's trying to do the same. They're now 2 by 2 as they head into the corner. Oleski's to the outside of Cameron Weston Edwards. Edwards trying to hang tough. He's not going to have the preferred line. Oh, and look at this. Oleski all the way to the inside, down to the wall, and he's going to make the move. And here comes Logan Aron trying to make that position. Oh, and Cameron gets a little bit power hungry there, and he just got the power down, lost the back end, and Cameron Weston Edwards is going to fall back into the 4th position, unfortunately for him. Oleski back out in front. And your top 3 in points are currently running top 3 in this race. Oleski, 3rd in points, 1st on track, followed by a Logan Aron, your championship points leader. Tim Ventic running in 3rd spot, currently 2nd in the points. And Ivan Brito has rejoined the session. Ironically enough, Ivan Brito's car is currently 9th. He was desynced when he was 10th. So Ivan Brito somehow picked up a position. Looks like that was because of Nicola Falzarezzi may have had an incident. So Ivan Brito able to rejoin the session, get control of his car. Cameron Weston Edwards, unfortunately, falling back into 4th position. He's got Vincenzo Torri all over the back of him. So Oleski out in front. We're going to hop on board with Logan Aron, then it looks like Vincenzo Torri. Oh, Cameron Weston Edwards. Looks like he's lost a couple of positions. I'm trying to get to him. Where is my thingamajig? Oh, Cameron has dived in for a fresh set of tires is what's going on there. And it looks like he has switched to the intermediates. And it looks like we've got Ivan Brito and Dion Stahl, so they're coming in as well. Looks like they're going to make the switch over to the intermediate tires. So the rain has let up. There goes Jensen Randall and Luke Smith. Those guys have been stuck together all day, it seems like. Back to the battle for the lead. Oleski still trying to hold off Logan Aron and Tim Ventic. Team Haas running second and third. And Logan gets a good run coming out of that corner. They're going to go side by side down into the next corner here. And this is where Logan is going to push Oleski wide. And that's exactly where Cameron Weston Edwards dumped Tim Ventic many laps ago. So Logan makes the move. A little bit of argy-bargy, gives him a shoulder check and pushes him wide. And now Logan is starting to gap Oleski almost by a second now. Tim Ventic now all over the back of Oleski for the second position. Meanwhile, Vincenzo Torri is still running, and he's now up into fourth. He's bringing Friab Bile with him. Friab Bile in fifth. And we've talked about it a couple of times today, but Friab Bile has never finished outside of the top five. This is going to be his final SRL race for the time being. It'd be great to see him able to finish and keep that streak alive and finish in the top five here on his final race. So Vincenzo Torri is going to pick up a position, as is Friab Bile, as these guys stayed out. Looks like Tim Ventic and Oleski both dived into the pits to switch over to the intermediates. Logan Aron gambling once again, staying out on older and not so great tires to see if he can gap the field a little bit. But when he goes to make the pit stop here in the next lap or two, might cost him some positions. Can he come out in front of Tim Ventic is going to be the key to extend that championship point standings, or is Tim Ventic going to be able to close that points gap? Meanwhile, Jensen Randall and Luke Smith running 7th and 8th. They are all over the back of Tim Ventic for the 6th position. And that is actually becoming a battle here. This is Oleski running in 5th, and he has got Tim Ventic behind him, along with Jensen Randall and Luke Smith. And Luke Smith's car is all over the place. Looks like we might be having a little bit of an internet lag there. And Ivan Brito is retired from the session. This time it is not because of a desync. This is a full course caution. Once again, Ivan Brito has crashed out of this race, and this is going to be huge for Logan Aron. And who's going to be coming in and switching over? This safety car may have just saved Logan. And Logan Aron is going to come out and be in first position. A gift from the Formula One gods. Ivan Brito crashes out, causes the safety car right at the exact moment that Logan needs to come in and pit. If he had to pit under green, he would have lost a number of positions. And I think Tim Ventic is probably banging his steering wheel right now. That was going to be Tim's opportunity to try and get in front of Logan Aron. If Logan wins this race, I mean, mathematically, Tim Ventic would still be in contention along with Oleski, but you could pretty much guarantee it's going to be nail in the coffin if Logan walks away with this race. It would be hard for anybody to try and lose a championship points gap by that much. And that's too bad for Ivan Brito. He was actually having a halfway decent day running in the points. He had a desync. He was able to come back, get control of his car, still ran in the points after that. Unfortunately, has crashed out here in these treacherous conditions. The rain has been light and then heavy. It's now back to light. We're still working lap 20 of 31. Is there a possibility of a dry line here in the future? Does the rain stop? I mean, with the humidity in Singapore, the rain could stop. Track could dry out in just a couple of laps. And this race has been up and down for every single driver, possibly with the exception of Oleski. Oleski started second. He's currently running in second. He didn't fall through the field at any given point. But you've seen that Logan has been up and down. Tim has been up and down. Friabile started in the third position. He's been up and down. Vincenzo Torri is one of the only drivers that has stayed solidly in the midfield. Started fifth. He's currently sixth. Was as high as fourth at one point. Cameron Weston-Edwards was up and down. He's led the race twice so far, but still back down. And Jensen Randall started in the back, worked his way to the front, now back down to ninth. And Nicolo Falzarezzi, your pole sitter, started up front. Fell through the field after Jesper Lempinen's crash in turn one on lap one. And he hasn't been able to work his way back. This has been a crazy race for a lot of these drivers. And I wouldn't say it's necessarily a race of attrition, but it's definitely been a race of incidents. This is our third full course caution under the safety car. We had a virtual safety car on lap one. We've lost three drivers. Jesper Lempinen was the first one to crash out. Harley Collins making his SRL debut. Unfortunately, he crashed out. And now Ivan Brito. And Eduardo asking about what has happened to Falzarezzi. Nicolo has just had an up and down day, as we were talking about. Started on pole position, got bumped in turn one, lap one, fell through the field. Unfortunately, he crashed under one of the safety cars, lost his front wing. He picked up a timing penalty. So Falzarezzi's race has pretty much fallen apart from the get-go. And Nick Van Gelder on the live chat saying that it's been a very interesting race with the changeable conditions. And I don't know that we're completely done with the change. It is Singapore. Like I said, the rain could stop, and with the humidity and heat in Singapore, the track could dry out very quickly, switch over to, slick tires again, or the rain could pick back up just as easily and go back to full wets one more time. Nonetheless, this is all played into the hands of your championship points leader, Logan Aran. Who is now out in front of this race. That was an extremely, extremely lucky safety car for Logan to pick up. And to be perfectly honest with you, Logan has been called out by safety cars a number of times this year. Finally, he catches a break on one of these. Now, Oleski is going to be starting in the second position. I don't think Oleski has the pace to keep up with Logan in these conditions. Now, Oleski does have the pace if it goes dry. But there's a part of me that thinks Logan probably did a semi-wet setup in qualifying, which is why he didn't qualify as high as he wanted to, but his car has been extremely fast in the wet conditions. So still circulating under the safety car. Hopefully in the next lap we should get this car to come in. Logan Aran heading into this race was your league leader in pole positions with 10. He was your league leader in wins with 8. He's your championship points leader with 255. And he's showing why he's got a 60-point lead in this championship over Tim Ventic. Meanwhile, Oleski has ran a great race, qualified well. made the move early on, heading into turn one of a Nicolo Falzaresi. Was able to lead in the dry. He's led in the wet. He's managed to stay up front most of this day. And then you've got Tim Ventic, former champion, trying to stay in championship contention. Then you've got reserve driver Luke Smith trying to represent Red Bull with the absence of Nick Van Gelder and Jirma Rusic today. And Luke is one of those reserve drivers. He started in the back. He rarely qualifies. Probably did the smart thing and did a semi setup for wet conditions, knowing it was going to happen. You know, and as we've been talking and circulating under this safety car, the track is still a little wet, but if we hop on board with Luke, the rain has pretty much stopped. So we've talked about it, the heat and the humidity here in Singapore. This track could very easily dry out in a couple of laps, and we would have another changeover to another set of tires. And the longer they circulate under the safety car, the harder it's going to be for these guys to create a gap to do that changeover. And the safety car is going to be in this lap. And you see the rain's pretty much stopped. The rain that we see on the camera lens is basically the overspray from the cars in front. Now, Logan Aron will be the control car. Logan has actually been pretty good at being the control car throughout the course of the season when he is out in front. As I did say earlier, he has been called out a number of times this season by safety cars. Finally catches a break with this one from Ivan Brito. If you're just tuning in, we're working lap 22 of 31, getting ready to go back to green flag racing. Just had our third safety car of the race. We had a virtual safety car on lap 1. And it has been an up and down day for a lot of these drivers as Logan Aron gets ready to go back to green flag racing. He's going to try and bait everybody. We've got a caution flag in sector 2, and it looks like that might be Nicolo Falzaresi as we go back to green flag racing. And Falzaresi, again, under safety car conditions, has bent it and put it into the wall. And Logan is off to the races. They're back to green flag racing. Free Abile trying to get around the outside of Luke Smith for the third position. Meanwhile, Sandro Dulius has quietly and methodically worked his way into the 5th position. Haven't talked about Sandro a whole lot today. And it looks like Falzaresi is trying to bring out a safety car. Oh, Falzaresi has switched over to medium tires in wet conditions and possibly gambled a little too early on making that switch, and that has cost him big time. So Falzaresi is, that's unfortunate for him. But it does look like we are at a position where there is going to be a changeover as far as the tires go. So Luke Smith currently running in the 3rd position, trying to find a way around Oleski for 2nd, but he's trying also to hold off Free Abile. A 3-car battle here for the 2nd spot. They're all on intermediate tires right now. Ooh, and Free Ab almost loses the back end. And you saw right there the sparks just shooting out from underneath of Oleski's car, so the track is definitely drying at a rapid rate. Who's going to gamble first and head into the pits? And it looks like it's going to be Oleski. He's going to dive in first. We're on lap 24 of 31. Luke Smith is going to take over the 2nd position, and it looks like there's a whole slew of cars coming with him. Free Abile. Oh, and Luke Smith picks up a 3-second timing penalty heading into turn 1, so that's going to cost him. So Oleski, Free Abile, Sandro Dulius all come in and switch over to slicks. Looks like they're going to be probably on the medium tires, I would have to take a guess. Sandro switches over to hard tires. That's an interesting take. Sandro hoping that the heat will add some tire degradation to these guys. Meanwhile, Logan Aron, he's going to have to make his pit stop. 3-second timing penalty for Luke Smith. That's unfortunate for him. Vincenzo Torri up into 3rd, and Cameron Weston Edwards Back up into the 4th position, but he's got Jensen Randall all over the back of him. Here comes Jensen. Great run coming out of the corner. He's going to be able to easily take that position away from Cameron. Caution flag flies sector 2. Looks like that might be Falzarezzi again. Oh, and a crossover move here. And Nicolo Falzarezzi has retired from the session, and safety car. And caution flag flies sector 1, 2, and 3, trying to get some signage to see, and that is another full course caution. Safety car for the 4th time, and once again, this is going to benefit Logan Aron as he dives into the pits. And Ivan Brito on the live chat saying that he has made a mistake. Unfortunately, he is out of this race. And Nicolo Falzarezzi, he is our latest DNF to bring out this latest safety car, the 4th time today. And look at Logan Aron. He's going to switch over to the soft tires and see if he can make that work. So Vincenzo Torri becomes your race leader, followed by Jensen Randall, Cameron Weston Edwards. Logan Aron comes out of the pits in 4th position. However, he is going to be on a fresh set of softs. He will easily be the fastest car on track. Luke Smith made the mistake, unfortunately, under the green flag conditions, picks up a 3-second time penalty, so that's going to hurt him. And Oleski, who's been running up front all day, is now back into the 6th position. Tim Ventic down into 7th, and Friabile, in his final race with SRL, falls back to 8th position, and looks like Sandro Dulius is back in the pits again. So he had switched over to hard tires when he pitted under green, and maybe that was a mistake. He's pitted for a fresh set of softs, so we've got a lot of comers and goers here. You see Dion Stahl is on the medium tires, so this is going to be, once this is all cleared up, we're going to have ourselves about a 4 or 5 lap shootout to finish this race. And Vincenzo Torri finds himself in the catbird seat, but he's got Jensen Randall behind him. Your all-time leader in wins, poles, podiums, points. And then you've got Cameron Weston Edwards. Cameron Weston Edwards, who's been a part of this league for many, many seasons, has a number of pole positions, a number of podium finishes, but unfortunately, that maiden F1 win has eluded him his entire SRL career. But on a rare occasion, Cameron Weston Edwards is sometimes the fastest and often the hardest driver to get past. Then you've got Logan Aron, who has come into this league with championships from IRL, the International Racing League, the IRS, the International Racing Series, and a number of other online leagues where he has had championship winning seasons. Has not won a championship here with SRL just yet. Luke Smith starting in the 5th position when we go back to green. Luke Smith is the one driver that, if Luke ever took his online racing seriously, everybody would run for 2nd place. Luke is one of the fastest reserves in the league and I've ever seen, and likes to start in the back, work his way towards the front, but if he ever took it seriously, he could be a force to be reckoned with. And then Oleski, again, been running up front all day. The safety car comes out, and it's cost him as he drops down to 6th. Tim Ventic, former series champion, and Friabile in his final race with SRL, trying to keep that top 5 streak alive. He'll be starting in 8th when we go back to green flag racing. He's going to have his work cut out for him, though. And we see Dion Stahl is going to be the final driver to make a pit stop. And he is going to switch over to softs as well. So hopefully we get the notification that the safety car will be in this lap. That'll give us pretty much a 5-lap shootout to end what has been one wild race. We've lost Jesper Lempinen, Harley Collins, Ivan Brito, and Nicolo Falzarezzi. And Nicolo Falzaresi, who had a 1:36 flat qualifying time, crushed the field for qualifying, but was unable to capitalize on that from the early going. Panther Wiz on the live chat saying, rest in peace. And I think we'll probably, hopefully, go back to green flag racing. I'd hate to think that the queue is waiting for Dion Stahl to catch up before they go back to green flag racing. But it looks like that might be the case as they get ready to head underneath the bridge, and we've yet to get the notification for the safety car to come in. So one more time around under the safety car, as it looks like Dion Stahl is going to finally catch up to the queue. We should get the notification here on lap 27 of 31. And with that being said, that'll be one less lap that these guys have the opportunity to try and make this work. What a wild race this has been. So Falzaresi, unfortunately, that'll be Nicolo Falzaresi's third DNF of the season. And Ivan Brito, who had a slew of DNFs early on in the season, but was able to make a bit of a resurgence here in the second half. Unfortunately, he'll be picking up another DNF as well. And that'll actually be a league-leading 8th DNF for Ivan Brito, unfortunately for him. But, man, when he was on in those resurgence a couple races ago, put on some great performances. He was in the points today, but the conditions today, no fault of his own. The conditions have been absolutely tumultuous for these guys to try and handle. It was dry, then it was wet, then it got wetter, then it got wet, then it was back to dry. So Dion, looks like Dion is still trying to catch up to the pack. Now the benefit to all this is everybody will get a point if they can finish the race. So Dion Stahl does finally catch up to the back end of the queue. We should get the notification that the safety car will come in this lap, and there it is, race control. Safety car in this lap. That will make Vincenzo Torri the control car. Vincenzo doesn't often find himself in this position. Be interesting to see how this plays out. He'll cross the line, 28 of 31 before lap shootout. He's got Jensen Randall behind him, Cameron Weston Edwards, Logan Aron, Luke Smith, Oleski, Tim Ventic, Free Abile, Sandro Dulius, and Dion Stahl, your 10 remaining drivers. And it doesn't look like Vincenzo's going to play much games with everybody. Safety car in, back to green flag racing, and well, maybe Vincenzo is playing some games with everybody. He started to go, and then he woed up real quick. And now Jensen Randall's going to easily get to the inside of him to take that position. Cameron Weston Edwards trying to hold off Luke Smith for the third position. Here comes Logan Aron, tries to cut the inside. He's trying to pick up the 2-for-1 deal, but he's not going to be able to make it work. Luke Smith's still going to try and get to the inside of Cameron Weston Edwards. Not going to be able to make it work. Logan Aron having a bit of an issue. And he is down into 5th. He's still battling it out with Luke Smith for 4th. Oh, and there's a contact. Logan Aron, Luke Smith, Tim Ventic. And Oleski's involved in that as well. And somehow Logan Aron comes out on top, still in the 4th position. Caution flag flies sector 2, and there's going to be some guys with some wing damage. Tim Ventic down to 6th. Free Abile is in 8th. That's unfortunate for him. Meanwhile, Cameron Weston Edwards is in 3rd, trying to close that gap down to Vincenzo Torri to pick up the 2nd position. And Logan Aron with a bit of an ambitious move on Luke Smith. Looks like he's going to try and give that position back to Luke. Doesn't look like there's any wing damage on Logan's car. What about Luke's car? Looks like Luke's car, Logan's car is going to be okay. What about Tim Ventic, though? Tim Ventic, doesn't look like Tim's got any wing damage as well. So the incident, though it involved 3 or 4 cars, and somehow Dion Stahl has made his way back up to 7th. A great restart by him, but he's got Free Abile all over the back of him. And things starting to get separated now just a little bit. Looks like Free Abile and Dion Stahl is going to be your closest battle on track as the laps wind down. 29 of 31. Free Abile looking to make a move on Dion Stahl. Gets to the inside. He's going to easily take that spot for 7th position. Meanwhile, Jensen Randall is off to the races. He's out in front by the tune of 2.5 seconds, 3 seconds now over Vincenzo Torre. Vincenzo's got himself a nice healthy gap. Cameron Weston Edwards, though, trying to hold off Luke Smith. And Luke Smith has got a 3-second time penalty. Cameron doesn't have to fight him. Cameron could let him go and just stay within 3 seconds of Luke Smith and pick up that podium position. Oh, and there's contact. And again, Cameron Weston Edwards is not one to be pushed around. Tim Ventic picks up a 3-second time penalty. And Luke Smith all over the back of Cameron Weston Edwards. Now he should be able to make this pass down the front straightaway. And it looks like Luke is getting antsy. He's got Logan Aron all over the back of him. Jensen Randall with a 1:39.259, fastest lap of this race. DRS is enabled. We have 2 laps of DRS. Luke's not close enough to make that move. Cameron hanging on to 3rd position here, but he's got a whole slew of fast drivers behind him. Luke Smith, Tim Ventic, Logan Aron. This is 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and 6th. And the DRS slot open for Tim Ventic and Luke Smith. Luke's going to get to the inside. Cameron needs to let him go. He just needs to stay within 3 seconds over the next couple of laps. He's going to try and make Tim work the outside, and these guys have already... Well, this is Logan, I should say. Cameron's going to lose out that position, unfortunately. Logan Aron, though, he just needs to stay within 3 seconds of Luke Smith. He'll pick up that podium position. Cameron Weston Edwards trying to hang tough. He just doesn't have the speed of these other drivers. Cameron should be able to walk away with the 5th position, possibly even 4th, depending on how these timing penalties shake out at the end of this race. Meanwhile, Logan closing in on Luke Smith for the 3rd position. This isn't necessarily a battle because Luke's got that 3-second timing penalty. And looks like Tim and Cameron, looks like they've swapped positions. Tim gets around him, and here comes Free Abile. Free Abile could pick up another position or 2 if he can get around Cameron. And Tim Ventic has that 3-second time penalty. Free Abile is on the cusp of keeping that top 5 streak alive if he can get around Cameron. Meanwhile, Cameron trying to hold him off. Free Abile running in 7th, but there's a couple of guys with timing penalties in front of him. It would be close. It would be really close for Free Abile to hold on to that top 5 streak that he's got going, but it would be incredible if he does. Meanwhile, Jensen Randall coming out of the final couple of corners, picking up another win. Started from the back, worked his way through the conditions all the way to the front. Here comes Vincenzo Torri. A great race ran by Vincenzo. He's going to pick up second position. Here comes Logan Aron. He's going to finish third. Now Luke Smith and Tim Ventic both have timing penalties. Here comes Free Abile and Cameron Wesson Edwards. And Free Abile just misses out on staying in the top 5. Tim Ventic is going to pick up the 7th position. Sandro Dulius looks like he was in a better position early on, but unfortunately lucked out, loses out. He's going to finish 8th. And Oleski, a race that had completely come undone under that last safety car, he's going to walk away with the 10th and final points paying position. That is not how this race should have ended for Oleski. What a wild, wild race for these drivers. Now, Jensen Randall will get driver of the day from the game because he started last, worked his way to the front, and that's probably a pretty good one, but a huge, huge congratulations and shout out to Vincenzo Torri finishing second. He ran the most solid race of the day, started in 5th, stayed mid-pack all day, stayed out of trouble, and because of the safety cars, worked his way to the front. A good podium finish for Vincenzo Torri and Team Alfa Romeo. As we wait for the game to load the game back up. Looks like we're having some technical difficulties. Here we go. There's Jensen Randall, a.k.a. Jensen Hamilton in the Mercedes. So Jensen Randall with a win. Logan Aron with another podium finish. That'll be a league-leading 10th podium finish for him. So Jensen Randall, your unofficial results. Jensen Randall is your winner, followed by Vincenzo Torri. Logan Aron third. Luke Smith is 4th. Cameron Wesson Edwards is 5th. Free Abile just misses out on finishing top 5 in the 6th position. Tim Ventic is 7th. Sandro Dulius is 8th. Dion Stall's 9th. And Oleski falls all the way to 10th. 11th through 14th is all DNFs. That's your pole sitter, Nicolo Falzarezzi, Ivan Brito, Harley Collins, and Jesper Lempinen rounding out your top 14 drivers for today. What an amazing race. Round 17 here at Singapore. So that is going to do it for us here at Singapore today. Round 17 of the season. Guys, be sure to check us out on the internet. Check us out on Instagram. Like, subscribe, and comment to the YouTube channel. Keep up with all the news and notes as we head into the final leg of the season and SRL Stewards' longest race in SRL history from a time standpoint, and Vincenzo Torri is under investigation for a restart violation. So things could change for some of these guys. There will also be some incidents that I'm sure drivers will report that will have to be investigated. That's why these are unofficial results. Stay tuned. Check us out on Instagram for all the news and notes heading into next week's race to see what happens. And we will see you guys at the next round.